Hello, and welcome to the new relaunched Chairsofter Show with these guys right here. That way, I've got to get used to everything being backwards now. I've got other people on some video and shit, and I. So yeah, we're back after about 14, 16 months. It's been since I last did it. I think it was before the first AI 500 in Dover that we last recorded, and yeah. It's been a while. So let's get to it. First off, guys, introduce yourselves. Tell people a bit about yourselves. And yeah. Who wants to go first? Keith, you spoke first, so you can go first.
Oh, bugger. Dropped his foot in it already. So call sign Kilo. Real name Keith Fox. Been playing Airsoft for 11 years now. Ran a couple of community pages over the years, been involved in news and reviews pages, a couple of articles for Airsoft Action, the usual stuff people get involved with. More recently, helping run a mental health support page specifically for Airsofters called Man Down, of which I ran a couple of charity events that have touched on that particular subject. And I'm just all around fuckery.
We're going to come back to that as well because we didn't actually do a debrief after the previous event.
No,
so we'll touch on that one a little bit later on.
Yeah, sure.
Something on you, I forgot to add in something. Who do you want to go next? Pick Joe or Craig?
Let's go with Joe. Pickle Scotch.
Joe.
Name's Joe, obviously. I'm at TSB and Insta. Playing Airsoft since I think 2013 at the start, on and off, and then started playing regularly. Got to know Keith actually from one of the pages he was mentioned, and chatting away, joined a couple of events that he was part of. Pretty much I just like getting involved with stuff. So the Man Down page, I got involved with that Keith's now part of. Previous page he was part of as well. And really, I like the charity events, big one on the charity events, especially Man Down, or any sort of mental health charity, to be fair. But I'm here just to be the token jock and have fun.
I wondered how long it was going to be before he dropped that one in.
Get it out of the way quick.
Yeah, get that out of the way, and then we just bury that before we end up with Scotland asking for independence or something like that.
I'm getting my flag.
You know what happens to your flags, Joe?
Yeah, mate, I smelt it and it was lovely.
If only I'd uploaded the photo. If only I'd uploaded the photo beforehand.
Well, Keith sent me one. That was questionable.
I forgot that I did that, if I'm being completely honest.
God, that was pre-COVID. That was like literally about a month before everything went tits up.
Yeah, I can't even remember where it was. Was it at the jail?
No, it was at HQ.
Oh my God, yeah, that was a long time
ago.
For context, for people who have no clue what we're talking about, I took Joe's team's flag and flossed my asshole with it.
Yeah, we will find the photo one day. That'll come back up on the socials, I'm sure. Okay, last but not least, Craig, the Chairsofter formerly known as Jesus.
No. Hi, I'm Craig. That's all you need to know. Doing introductions.
Literally all we're getting, Craig.
Yeah, that's it. I'm done.
Come on, you got more than that. Tell them where your airsoft career began.
You don't want to hear that.
Tell them about how you took us to a site and one of the guys we were with got abused and things like that.
I had lots of fun at the site that shall not be named due to Andy getting angry. And that is where literally my whole sneakiness derived from. So it was just dark areas. Happily, I love it. I'll just happily sit in the dark somewhere. I don't care. Oh, and I also find my friends and kill them.
So it's been a while. A lot of things have changed. You've noticed the new background. That was part of the reason I've not been around for months, because we spoke about this back in relaunching, go back tail end of last year, I think it was, wasn't it? And then I bought a house, moved into that, moved out of it again. Now I'm back in. I mean, one thing for me, I don't know about you guys. One thing I've found really is that I've sort of struggled to get back into airsoft ever since the world shut down and everything stopped. I've just found it difficult to sort of like get back out there and get playing again. And I've noticed like a few comments from people sort of saying that they really just don't have the passion for it anymore because we didn't play for the best part of 2 years. I don't know about how you guys sort of feel and what your situation is about
that. Go on, Joe.
I'm pretty much in the same boat because, like, I used to marshal at the previous site where the depot used to be located. Obviously, when that changed, I couldn't marshal it anymore. The days are off for me. So that was my regular airsoft, and I'd go play as much as I can, etc. I'd get games down south with you guys if I could throughout the year. So pretty much, COVID killed my entire airsofting.
Because just out of nowhere, the depot went, didn't it?
Yeah.
And I don't know if either of you guys played at that, Keith, Craig, but it was a really good site, actually. Yeah. I only got there the once. But
the old location was phenomenal. And the new one's getting built up pretty well as well, to be fair. It's just too far for me to know.
I never had the pleasure, and it was always on the to-do list. And obviously, I missed that boat, but he's 2.0 now, isn't he? So, yeah, one day when I've got time spare, which is probably going to be never, because for those who don't know, my second son was born on Sunday.
Congratulations, everyone! Congratulate Keith
for his penis working. Thank you.
Valid point here from Gary Barden. Who's Green's commander for AI 500. So I think that pretty sums it up as well. You know, I bought a house, got engaged, got a wedding to save for now, things like that. So, like as he says, other life stuff gets in the way.
Priority shift, don't they? At the end of the day, but
this is it.
At the end of our passion is airsoft. We enjoy it for various reasons. It doesn't matter which of those reasons are. It's our escape from reality in a way. I mean, I am 40 years old, and I'm enjoying it more now than I've ever done before. But going back to what you said, after COVID and things starting to open up, I was going into sites with a bit of nervousness around, I don't think it was airsoft related. The reason why I was feeling it was just the fact that I'm now around loads of people again, and I've not been in that situation for probably 18 to 20 months. And also, I was going out, I was avoiding people. We were all in very much an isolated situation. And then our hobby, at its very roots, is being surrounded by loads of people. You can't play the game without being surrounded by loads of people, in your safe zone, surrounded by people. It's a very social thing. So it's like going from one extreme to the other. And that's always going to knock you a little bit, I mean, there's a lot of people who play airsoft who are a little socially anxious, a little introverted sometimes. Our sport allows people to go from introvert to extrovert by just expressing themselves in whichever way they want. And sometimes it's difficult when you've had that locked down for so long, when you've had that ability to open up that hidden part of you into a society that's accepting like that. You've just got to kind of dip your toe in the pool again and then ease your way in, I suppose. Expecting it to be like the last game you played, it's never going to be that way. The world's fundamentally changed now. So yeah, we were all going in, I suppose, on tenterhooks. It's one of those. But it's one of the. Gary says it's an age thing. I don't agree with that personally, but that's my point of view and opinion. That he'll have his opinion. For me, airsoft is how I release my stress and frustrations. I very much like going to a site and just exhausting myself, getting bloody and attacking people. That's my way of releasing my tension. I got into airsoft after I'd quit MMA, so I can't kick people in the head anymore. I can't go punching people in the face. I've stepped away from that world. I shoot people with guns. I could, but I don't. You know what I mean? I'm involved in a very different world now, and I enjoy it a lot more because there's a lot less stress.
One from the legend at his house here. He says, I find I enjoy casual airsoft less and appreciate organised events much more. Going back to open plays makes it hard to feel like it was worth the wait.
Yeah, I can see where it's coming from.
It depends on the organised event, though, which we'll come on to later.
That's one thing to appreciate. Whereas I've not really done an organised event in quite a while. So for me, just going out casually, I'd enjoy any of it really. I'm just happy to go and be a complete knobhead in the dark.
Well, define organised event. Like Stigma 2, for example. That was an organised event. It wasn't a milsim. It was very much a social-based thing, touching on mental health with a game as a reward for us. That was a cracking weekender. But
I think that's it, though, because at the end of the day, you've got that, for want of a better term, the organised game. It doesn't have to be a milsim at the end of the day. It's an event where you've got a like-minded group of people turning up who've all got the same thing. For example, Stigma, where everyone knew what we were going for. We were going to support mental health, and we were just having a game as a part of that. And the raffle that your admin team ended up winning pretty much 95% of the prizes on.
Yeah, honestly,
looking at you.
Killed them all.
I
didn't buy any tickets. I was like, "This is for you guys." And the admin team were just like,
this guy right here.
Yeah, I may have forced quite a lot of tickets on people. I am so sorry, but no, actually, I'm not sorry. You put your hand in your pocket. So,
speaking as kind of the guy that spearheaded that event, for anybody that kind of had questions about how much stuff the admin team won, the admin team were there as members as well. They helped organise it, they helped run it, and kind of generally guide the weekend.
Joe fixed it, yeah.
It wasn't fixed in any way whatsoever. There was no way of, there was no way of fixing it, and they were very much there as members of Man Down as well, which we all are at the root of things.
The best laugh was, just to quickly jump on that, I didn't know I'd won the prize because I was like, there's no just called this prize, and I thought, oh shit, I bought tickets as well, and in my wallet, and I'd basically bought from 700 to 800, one bit. Yay! It's like one chunk, and I just said to one of the guys, look, that's the tickets I've got. Let me know if any. I knew what the numbers were anyway. So as I get called out, as I pulled out that number, I was just like, oh god, this is hot, soul destroying. So, but I gave two away, which I didn't mind. I took the ones I wanted, I liked, I would have used. One was the stuff you got, Andy, the Viper stuff. Was it Viper?
Yeah, the Viper, yeah.
Viper stuff, I gave that to a young kid. And the slinging stuff from Crafted Hangman, it just got launched out to people.
Yeah, this is it. To be fair, Joe did give away a few of the prizes.
Yeah, and fair play to you on that one, Joe. You didn't have to. You was as entitled to the prizes as anybody else. You bought a ticket just like everyone else.
Yeah, 100%. But for me, I got I'd won the Delta Mike Face Pro, a couple of other things with that.
Great prize as well.
Face Pro, and then obviously the Vortex Crossfire. So for me, I was like, I've got my money's worth out of this. I did put a fair bit of change in it enough, but I got.
Liam just made a really valid point, saying that he wouldn't have the friends he has today, without the social side of it. And I mean, 100%. This exists right now as it is. This podcast, as we're doing now, this exists because of the social side of airsoft. We've all met each other. I mean, and we all live in vastly different places. I live not quite as north as. Yeah.
I went to one game with Joe, and it ended up me driving 8 hours, which, to be fair, is nothing compared to some of the games that you hear about in the States with some of the big milsim events where people drive literally across the country.
2 days in some cases, yeah.
Eric raises a valid point as well, actually. He's come up with this one. Quality of fields also definitely matters. I'd be curious if COVID hurt other areas' fields as much as my area.
It has. We've lost a substantial amount of airsoft sites in the UK through COVID. You know, at the end of the day, business can't run during COVID, but if you're renting land, you always owe that money. And unfortunately, in some cases, that sapped all the money. Backup resources, things like that, from a lot of sites in the UK. And we've seen a lot of the smaller fields just disappear. And it's to the detriment of airsoft as it is, but unfortunately, it's the way that the world works. You know, if you're renting land to run an airsoft site, you'll always owe that money, but you can't always guarantee that your site's going to be able to open.
One thing that did wind me up coming out of the COVID a bit, though, and we spoke about it at some length, I know I did with Keith, was there were a number of sites that we were still in some form of lockdown when numbers were restricted. And they were trying every excuse under the sun to get around the rules and bend the rules to open. And it was dangerous at the end of the day. You know?
It was, but you have to look at it from a wider perspective, because we were looking at it from people who were sat in our house, not able to leave our house, blah, blah, blah. You know, we were allowed an hour's exercise per day and all this other stuff. They're in a similar situation, you know, living-wise. But when you realise that we were getting paid regardless of what happened, our jobs were paying us. I now work from home permanently as a result from COVID, and I work from home more efficiently with a higher productive level than I did before when I was travelling into Manchester every day and working. They don't get that luxury. So there's almost an untold amount of pressure on an individual who owns that business and relies on that business to pay their bills, mortgage, house the kids and things like that. But we were in this kind of cloud created by the government of look at people who are breaching rules and vilify them. And that's kind of okay. You know, we had to do something, but these people aren't abiding by the same rules as us. And it really frustrated us. And we got, you know, angry as a result. But we didn't have to rely on what they're doing to have the roof over their head. And at the time, none of us really saw it. We're just pissed off. They're doing stuff when they shouldn't be allowed to do that stuff. I'm not allowed to do that stuff. Why are they doing that? But the reason was, if they don't, they've got nowhere to live. They can't pay the bills. The family doesn't get fed. And if we were in the same situation as them, would we have made different choices? I don't know. Probably.
Yeah, it's a fair assessment, to be fair. Like, in hindsight, it's a fair.
Well, this is hindsight. At the time when you're living in that bubble, you know, and we were all frustrated. Me and Andy were playing Call of Duty every day during COVID, and he was just a ball of fury. Some of the days when we went in, he was just fucked off all day. I
don't think it helped the sort of borderline alcoholism that came with that first lockdown. And because, like, good God, I was drinking heavily at that point because there was nothing else to do. I was literally, Keith would tell you, I was sitting home, I'd be polishing off half a bottle of rum easy while we were just playing in Call of Duty for 2 hours.
Yeah. I'd see him spiral during the night. Honestly, we'd start off having a few good games of Call of Duty, and by the end of the night, it was just like, that guy's cheating, that guy's cheating, that guy's cheating. He was just raging, and then he'd just disappear. And I was, don't take this the wrong way, Andy, I was desperately trying to keep hold of him to try and just keep him together a little bit, because you were tethering, weren't you?
Yeah, I was in a bad way at that point. But then if it hadn't been for COVID, I wouldn't have met Jenny. So, you know, it swings and roundabouts at the end of the day. She's in the other room. The dog just followed. The dog just went out some shit. Well, I saw her leave actually in the background of the image. I mean that was meeting her was like the thing that brought me back, kind of thing. Because if we hadn't, I'd probably still be drinking. Well, I wouldn't now, because now I can get out again and that. But you know what I mean? It's like I would have carried on.
Yeah, they probably have kept. Yeah, it'd be a thing you'd kept up most likely.
Yeah, it was a strange time in our lives, and I don't think, you know, I'd hope that in our generation we don't experience something like that again.
Yeah.
It affected us all completely differently. Some people thrived, some people lost everything. You know,
I suppose this kind of brings us nicely onto stigma as well, because the Man Down group was a massive, massive help as well for not just myself, but I think for a lot of people, seeing the amount of people that were just posting throughout that time and the amount of people just going, look, I'm in the same situation, let's talk through what our issues are and let's try and figure this out between us kind of thing.
There was a few things born out of lockdown through Man Down, and Craig runs one of the things that was essentially born out of necessity during that time. Everyone was feeling isolated. We needed to give people an opportunity to have a bit of a social where they could pull their hearts out if they were having struggles and things like that. And that's when the Man Down calls were created. We previously had in-person Man Down meetings at Airsoft Anonymous that Tyler, the creator of Man Down, the founder of Man Down, put together. But obviously that was no longer available, where people couldn't meet up and have a rant. You know, it's the same as Andy's Man Club and things like that. So we followed suit with stuff that Andy's Man Club did and created the Man Down, social calls, the support group calls that we have every Thursday. And at the time, I was mainly running them. When I was unable to run them, I'd hand them over to Adam or Craig would pick up and things like that. But it was bustling at the time, wasn't it? It was really busy. We'd get 15 people, 20 people some nights, which is these days we don't get that. But it was a place where people could open a virtual door and go into a room with people who've all got similar interests and just have a chat. And it was a good idea at the time. It's still a good idea now. Liam, Liam.
Yeah, definitely a tough time for you as well, Liam. Definitely.
Nice to hear from you, by the way, Liam. I know this is a bit weird coming from this format of podcast, but yeah, it's nice to see faces that were showing up in the meetings pop up on here. But yeah, we still do the calls to this day, and now this is kind of Craig's wheelhouse. He owns this now because I stepped away for a little bit just to focus on family and stuff, because I've been helping on Man Down since what was it? About 4 or 5 months before Stigma 1, which would have been 2018.
Yes.
Was it 18 or 19? I can't remember.
It was 19.
It was 2019.
Because it was the week before I flew out to Kev's event.
Yeah, when you surprise sheep. Yeah, that's right. So I was a long time in it, and sometimes you just need to be able to just step back for a bit and recharge, which is what I've been doing recently. Apologies for my absence on the page and things like that. But it's one of those. Sometimes you need to recognize when you need to step back and just let your glass fill itself again, because you can't let somebody drink from your glass if they need it if your glass is half empty. And I was getting to the point where I was just burnt out completely. I've put a lot into the work I've done, and sometimes it can get a bit too much. And because I had a new baby on the way. I've got a 20-month-old son, and I've got a 5-day-old son now, and I just needed to be able to just step back for a little bit and let other people take the wheel.
Enjoy it, man.
Yeah. Well, once I've settled into a routine now and I'm able to sort of give a bit more of myself out there again, I'll jump back in. But I suppose that's a lesson for people. Sometimes when you're trying to help everybody, you to recognise that you can't necessarily do that if you're not in a position to help yourself at the same time. Just weigh yourself down. Yeah, absolutely. So sometimes just step back, recharge, and then go back at it, and you'll be more productive than you were before. Hi, Brad.
I think that speaks volumes as well. I've seen a lot of guys where, it sums up the patch. I don't know if either of you guys have got your patches to hand. But you've got the reach patch. We didn't even plan this as well. Joe's just got it. This patch sums it up. You got one hand reaches out for help, and you see 4 or 5 hands reaching back.
Yeah.
And it's like this, that kind of thing. And like you saw that at Stigma as well, with people coming along, they were willing to talk about things like. And like I personally, because I didn't tend to join in with the group calls because of work commitments and that, I didn't hear the full stories, and it was the first time I sort of met Brad in person and found out about his story and stuff. So, like things like Stigma lets you understand like what other people are going through as well, and sometimes it can be eye opening as well, because you can think, okay, my problems are affected of me, but in the grand scheme of things, actually, they're not as big as some people have it, if that makes sense. So it's like
Yeah.
it's all like for me, some of it was like it was a bit of a kick in the leg to just sort of say
there was an important lesson the day that I met Brad. So I didn't meet Brad until the day he told me that he lost his mum. But I was ranting about our work was frustrating me. There's a couple of people who were saying, you know, they're feeling a bit isolated down in the dumps, this, that, and the other. And we all have the chance to speak during the group calls, and it gets kind of passed along, you know. And then everyone was speaking about the things that were affecting them at the time. And then Brad came on, and we were like, "How are you doing, Brad?" He's like, "I'm struggling, if I'm being honest. I lost my mum last week." And I was manning the call that day. And in the back of my mind, I was going, fuck. What do we say? I've just been moaning about work, for God's sake. You know, this guy's lost his mum. And there was like a mild panic in the back of my mind, just going, you've just been bitching about the most superfluous, daft, useless shit ever. And this guy's lost a chunk of his life.
Yeah.
And I was kind of looking around the room, and I was messaging Adam, just going, what the fuck do I say? What do I say? I don't know what to say, mate. Tell me what to say. And everyone was just going, I don't know. And then it was just a case of like, Brad, I don't know what to say. I've got no advice to give. But if you need to talk. And then he did.
Yeah.
And I mentioned, I run another mental health group. I run the co-op groups, mental health support group, along with a friend of mine who's just been made redundant. So I suppose I run it alone now in a way. But that's something that the co-op group offer to all of their employees, and that's like 12,000 people. We get nowhere near the amount of people coming into the group calls as we do with Man Down. But it was one of those, I mentioned it in that group, I just went, you know, you guys know that I run this other, you know, help run this other thing. And yesterday I went into a room and I was moaning about work being difficult, and this guy's come in and told me he's lost his mum, and they went, everyone is experiencing their own battles. Doesn't matter how big that battle is, it's still important to that person, and therefore it's just as valid. Yeah. And this is one of the things, you know, we run these calls, but we are still learning as we go, and that will never change. Every week we learn something new.
I think Brad's comment sort of sums up the way stigma went for a lot of people as well, and the way people opened up. Stigma 2, sorry, yeah. This was God, was that really? That was April.
Yeah, April. April 30th.
Yeah, it was
May
very
1st.
Different, wasn't it? Because
it was, and it adapted because of Stigma 1. In Stigma 1, it was massive, absolutely huge. You know, we ran it in conjunction with One Legion. You know, thanks to them, that the word and I suppose the exposure was a lot higher than Stigma 2's was. As a result, we saw 286 people turn out to an event, which is great for the money side of things. You know, the charity event did, I think it was like over $2,000 on the raffle alone. We did massive ticket sales and things like that. But the one thing I kept hearing was it was overwhelming for the people who were there, who experienced mental health and anxiety issues. They were saying, you know, it was an amazing event, but I did have to drop back to the safe zone and just kind of pull myself together a little bit because it was overwhelming. I was marshalling on the day, and the battles were huge. There was, you know, dozens of people everywhere all the time. And I can imagine, you know, if you're going into there with social anxiety and things like that, that's a different experience for that person than somebody who doesn't necessarily suffer from mental health issues but wants to support the cause. And I think there was more people who wanted to support the cause there than they were who suffered from anxiety and things like that. And it was a bit of an oversight on my part because I didn't consider, you know, the impact of 286 people on an individual on the day. So Stigma 2, we wanted to go smaller. We wanted to be more intimate, but we wanted to provide more for the people who are in that bubble. So, you know, we had like a well-being, mindfulness style therapy session on the day. And small group of people went to it. I think it was like 12 people went in. But the therapist who ran it said she was so shocked at that. There was all these blokes went in, you know, when these were big fellas. You know, you'd look at them in the street and you wouldn't think that person's going to go home and cry. But they did. You know, they went into that therapy session and she had to take, I think the guy that helped us, Gaz Holmes, the owner of Alpha 55, He said she had to go away afterwards and just take an hour to herself to just collect herself because it was so impactful to her, emotionally wise, that these guys were just opening up and just openly crying about loss and the battles they've had, and I didn't go into it that day because I've had that kind of experience professionally through what the NHS can provide. And I just wanted to allow other people to go in and experience it and see if the mindfulness side of things can help them.
Yeah. And
from what I understand, everybody that went into there came out touched by the experience in a very specific way, which is what we wanted. The event.
Yeah. A few of the guys that I'd spoken to on the day. A few of the guys I'd spoken to on the day who'd attended that was shortly after it, and you could just tell the way they were walking about. So I just asked them, "He's all good?" And that stuff. And I was chatting away a few of the guys, and even they were telling me about what happened. Didn't tell me the full things we were talking about, but the atmosphere of it, and how it was sort of each person sharing it. They were sort of getting more and more, not kind of open and more feelings in them to express. So it was hard for me I wasn't part of it, obviously I wasn't in that meeting, but even hearing that I was as long as it was working, it's a success. You can take something from it and move on. So it definitely helped people. It definitely worked.
Yeah,
it was an eye opener more than anything. It was definitely an eye opener. I feel the raw emotion that people gave after was just mind blowing. It was great.
Everyone seemed to feel lighter. They looked like they'd got a weight off the chest. And I would sacrifice 287 people down to 86 people, which is what we had on Stigma 2. Any day now. Any event in the future, I would gladly drop to that level.
Yeah,
purely for it to have the impact it had on those guys.
That's one of the highlights for me was on the Saturday night inside the sort of safe zone. There's about, I think, I want to say at least 20s, maybe 15, 20s, just playing Cards Against Humanity.
Yeah.
And my God, man, Jesus Christ! You need to think about it. It's a mental health, it's all about that mindfulness state, and Jesus Christ.
I could hear people howling from the camping site.
Oh man,
which was a good kind of 50 meters, 100 meters away.
You packed it in. You wanted to go, and I was like, "I'll walk you down the road. And I'm coming back." We played for longer after that. It was so funny, man.
I was more than a little burnt out that day. I've got a very bad habit of not allowing myself enough rest or to recharge so that I can enjoy the experience. And the following day, when Gaz went, we don't need you to marshal, just go and play. I was just like, yes, I can actually get involved in one of my own things for once.
Yeah.
But, it was great watching the raffle. I just sat in the corner of the safe zone. I just backed off from everybody, just so I could see everyone's reactions.
Yeah,
and it was just really nice. And everyone said, Stigma 2 just had a vibe to it. And I think that's what we need to aspire to now. That atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry, we've gone off on this for quite a while.
Changing the subject slightly, just quickly before we go on to our next topic. Gary's raised a very valid point a while ago that I wanted to come back to. I just wanted to get the stigma stuff through first. So he's come up and said, have you concerns going forward with the cost of living, players reducing the spending, retailers struggling more than ever, sightseeing players playing only once a month instead of twice?
I think it will eventually go back to normal. They can't expect it to just rocket back. Keith touched on it earlier, where it was your lifestyle sort of came back that quick, so it's hard to adjust. So the sites are going to have to sort of slowly get back into it. The players, we've lost sort of a bit of passion to play as often. Again, that'll be across the board. So I think the best plan is sort of to try and long-term plan to get back to where they were, rather than try to get more people in the door as fast as possible, because I think it'll work out.
I mean, speaking to
quality over quantity sort of thing.
Speaking to a site owner, I'm not going to name him now because he's not here to defend himself in case I misquote him. But he was saying something along the lines of, now you're seeing you'll have the players turn up for the day, but they won't necessarily go and buy that handful of smoke grenades now, or that handful of pyro now on the site throughout the day, or the things that they would have bought as niceties as such. It'll just be the essentials that you get on the day now, like your BBs and your gas and things like that. And like I think in that respect, you're not going to see as many sort of site shops selling as much for a period of time until things start coming back down. Because I mean, I noticed the other day that diesel started creeping up again over here.
Yeah, it's jumping up and down a little bit at the moment. It's a bit all over the place, but it's going to come down to economics at the end of the day, isn't it? You know, they can choose to keep the prices high and have a reduced amount of players, or they can drop the prices slightly and have an increased amount of players to improve the experience people are going to have on the day.
Yeah,
and that's how you're going to get repeat business. So they're going to have to make a difficult choice. Really, they're going to try and if they're going to raise the green fees, the site fees, then there's likely going to be less people turn up on the day.
Yeah.
If they keep the site fees low but increase the price of BB slightly in the shop, then they could subsidise themselves that way. Alternatively, they could drop the game fees to make it more accessible for people, and you'll get more players turn up on the day. And as a result, you'll see an increased amount of purchases for your site shops and things like that on BBs.
Yeah.
It's a difficult decision, and everyone's going to go at it in a completely different manner. We've seen some sites open recently who didn't necessarily think economically, and we've seen them disappear very quickly.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I'm not going to mention them. Well, I suppose I can, because what they're going to do, they don't exist anymore. Gorilla Strike, they open up a site, £48, which would make them the most expensive CQB site in the UK with zero reputation.
Yeah.
They then listened to players and dropped it to 35, but was it too little too late? And I know there's some political stuff that happened which resulted in the closure, and I'm not going to go into it because I don't want to dwell on someone's misery by any chance, but there was lessons to be learnt there.
Yeah.
You need to think the same way as a player thinks when they're booking on a game.
Yeah.
If
it's a brand
new
new
see
site,
my local site jump up 15 quid, a game day, I'm not going to go there. I'll find a site that's maybe 10 miles further away. That's the same price as before, and it'll save me a tenner on the green fee. It'll cost me £2 extra in petrol. And I'll be able to 2 games there is a bottle of BBs. If I have to think game to game like that, that's how I'm going to think, and that's what everyone else is going to think like. So. Yeah.
It's like for me, getting my membership at the jail means that you get like a slight discount on price on the game day kind of thing is one of the perks of the membership. So like for me, it was a no-brainer to renew that because I didn't play there for a while, but now I've actually got the passion for going back there, and I think it's the only site I've actually played.
Yeah, I've been all over the place since lockdown ended because I've been living between Birmingham and Manchester, so I've had the luxury of northern and more kind of mid/southern sites at my disposal, which has been great, to be honest. In a way, it's been difficult living between 2 different addresses while we've been sorting everything out. But the West Midlands has got some cracking sites. Yeah,
I need to get out there. It's just for me now because of the cost of living and that. I need to think a bit more in advance. So like, right, okay, I'm going to go to this event. So what do I need to do to make up for that now? And when things get back to normal, hopefully I'll get back out playing a bit more again. But for now, I just have to think very practically about what I'm going to do. It's like I've got this game. In fact, me and Craig are playing on Sunday.
Where are you going?
Jail.
All right.
Shock.
There's a shock, yeah. But other than that, I don't have another game planned at the moment. I'll probably try and get one in December, probably again at the jail.
Yeah.
But
Craig, you've got a few interesting sites under your belt during the last kind of year, haven't you? So you went to the that one that looks like kind of an oil rig in the middle of nowhere. I can't remember what it was called. You went to was it a test day there? One of the opening days? Because you went to Gorilla Strike.
I went to Gorilla Strike, which was a great little site. Don't get me wrong; it was a lovely little site.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think where else I went.
You went to the one that's now closed. It's like an industrial building with fencing around it. Looks almost like a kind of an oil rig style place.
I don't know.
Can't remember the name of it. Blood something.
Oh,
Bloodbath, was it?
Bloodbath, yeah, Bloodbath Airsoft. It was a Clipstone colliery in Mansfield Way.
Get Craig to come to your test days.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's not me you need to worry about. It's another friend of mine.
Speaking of test days, I think this brings us nicely on to our next topic. When your event goes wrong, ownership is key.
Brace yourselves, everybody. Keith's ready.
So, it's going to be interesting because Gary's in here at the moment watching, and he is the green team commander at the events we're going to be talking about. So before we start, this was a bit of an awkward topic for me because obviously the last few episodes that I had were with Paul from AI, and he actually invited me down to the first Dover game. I ended up only playing the Saturday in the end because my kit was soaked through because the weather, that's out of their control. I went back the second time and you could see that the mentality was different that day, that weekend. We went into it very much knowing that we were the underdogs because they booked sort of a significant number of players onto the tan team and the green team, so we knew we were up against it anyway. But Gary was very kind enough to actually let me onto the command team for that event as well. So it was like my first sort of experience in that side. So I had to go in and think, right, okay, we stay positive, we move, basically. It is what it is, we go.
Yeah.
So I went to that one. We made the best of it, you know. At the end of the day, we got our asses handed to us, but it was to be expected when you've got that significant a number of players.
Yeah, for guys overseas, AI 500 is very much a social thing.
Yeah.
With a secondary element of gameplay.
Yeah.
And the gameplay is often not quite as great as the social side of things. I've never been to one purely because I love playing. I love fluid gameplay. I love the back and forth, you know, the one-on-ones, you know, being able to dick over an entire team if you play sneaky enough, things like that.
Yeah.
There's a sense of achievement in there that I crave. AI 500 doesn't seem to cater for that because of the numbers. It makes it difficult. Now, Operation Flashpoint was held at the Wheatsheaf Shopping Centre, which is less than 5 minutes drive from my house, you know, up north. And when I first saw they were playing there, I was just like, I've been looking at that place because it was my local shopping centre. Just before COVID, and then it got closed down pretty much on the spot. And one day they just turned up one day and said to all the shop owners, pack up, unfortunately we've got to close. Everyone got booted out. It was really bad. And I saw it, and I've seen it many times. I was like, that'd be really good for an airsoft game. And I was like, I hope somebody clocks onto this. I'd sent messages to First and Only about it and things like that, hoping that another site owner would cotton on and do it. And then I saw AI 500. I got hold of it. I was super excited for about 15 minutes. Literally for about 15 minutes. And then I'd heard 400 tickets. I was just like, are you kidding me? Now, for context, you can walk from the front door to the back door of this shopping centre in about a minute. It's less than 200 metres long.
Yeah.
If you just do the general walk through the centre. There's a couple of service corridors. There's multiple levels, but the upper levels are restricted to just around the vestibule where the escalators are, with some office space on the top floor, but that was superfluous to needs because they turned that into the safe zone. The loading dock isn't big enough to fit an articulated lorry in there. I know this because my dad delivered there once and he had to park his lorry on the street with a trailer inside the building for them to unload it, and he blocked the street off for about 20 minutes. And then you've got some offices and things like that, but a lot of this was blocked off for the event because what they don't want is for players to be playing in a room where the fire control units and the security cameras are. You get what I mean? So there was a lot of opportunity, but a lot of it was restricted because of basic needs for an airsoft event. You don't want someone to put a few BBs into a fire control unit and then the fire brigade turn up in the middle of a firefight. It's not going to provide a good experience. So I was like, yes. And I was messaging people about it, trying to get a bunch of people ready to go to this event. And then 15 minutes later, I was messaging them again going, do not book. Putting 400 people in this box, it's going to be fucked. And it was. If I don't know, Andy, if you've got the ability to pull up that video that I sent you before, just to show how
I didn't because we sort of spoke about it just before. I didn't want to show it without their permission on the stream. But if you want to see just how busy it was, Team Sasquatch on YouTube, they've got an AI 500
of the gameplay.
Yeah, they've got a video AI 500 Operation Flashpoint about 8-9 minutes in, you can see just how packed that place was.
Yeah, for people who aren't going to click that link, I'll give you kind of a word picture. Imagine you were playing a game that you downloaded off Steam and it was shooting from a doorway simulator. That's pretty much the weekend.
Yeah, I'll put the link to their video in the comments so that people can tune into it.
Yeah, the weekend would have worked, I think, personally, if it was limited to about 150 people max. But from what I understand, they booked on, and I don't know if this is true. I'm just going to say what I've heard. The limit was 400 people, but they booked on more, expecting some people not to turn up, but everybody turned up, because you're not going to turn up if you paid 95 quid for a ticket. You're not going to pay 95 quid and then not turn up. You know, that's a commitment. So if there were extra tickets sold, thinking people weren't going to turn up, and I think that's a bit of a foolish thing to begin with, then there's gameplay issues and rules that are in place. So that with some UK airsoft insurers, there's a kind of a policy excerpt in there that says that if you're standing, as in moving on a stairwell, you are not allowed to shoot, otherwise you're not insured. So the escalators that allow you access to floors 1 and 2, there was a rule in place that you weren't allowed to shoot while you was on there. Now, imagine you're the first one up the escalator. You get to the top of the escalator, you've got 30 guys behind you ready to breach onto the first floor. You and your friend next to you, which is too wide on an escalator, the maximum amount of people on an escalator you can fit up, get shot. You've created a roadblock for 30 people behind you. Where do you go? You can't go up because you're not allowed to move around when you're shot, because you can still get medicked. You can't go back because you've got 30 blokes trying to get up the stairwell. And this is the stuff I was kind of analysing in my head when I was thinking, should I go to this event? I was like, the service corridors, they're your only flanking points, but you can fit maybe 3 people wide in one of them. So if you're one of the, the 50 people, the 450 people fire teams, and you're leading a charge down this corridor, and the first 8 people get shot, and you create a roadblock for the next 20 or 30, 40 people, then all what's going to happen is it's just going to be clog up after clog up after clog up. And every single video I've seen has shown that, I was right in that way of thinking. It's just people stuck in doorways, people stuck in corridors, people stuck on stairways, people trying to get up and down escalators, getting absolutely maimed at the bottom, getting absolutely maimed at the top, because it was just, I felt it was badly planned.
Yeah.
I
mean, we can sort of see what. We can sort of try and get a few screenshots up here. Let me just try and call these up.
Yeah, and obviously this was a 2-day event.
Yeah, so this was over 2 days. I knew things were going a bit bad on the Saturday night.
Well, I was seeing messages pop up during the game where people are just going, screw this, like.
Yeah, so this is one of the main ones that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, take the hit-taking issues out of it, because a 400-person event.
Yeah, you're going to have hit-taking issues.
You're always going to shoot one person and think it's, they've not taken the hits, but there's someone dressed exactly the same behind them. So that part.
That said, though, at the second Dover game, we did actually have reports of Dead Man talking to the marshals who were stood next to him. We were like, look, come on, you can see he's talking, he's dead. Why is he talking to his mates? Now, it could be completely innocent, but you think you're on the other side of the site looking at that situation. What are you going to think? He's cheating instantly.
Well, yeah. Dead man talking, it's a tricky rule. Don't talk about the game. But if you're stood there for 5 minutes waiting for a medic, and somebody who's dead next to you starts talking to you about daily life stuff, completely innocent, completely within the rules. However, from an outside view, looks sketchy. And there lies the problem, because it's not dead men must remain silent, it's just dead men don't talk.
Yeah.
But,
just stop sharing. Let's see what I find the next one. So basically, there was a few comments like that. So we've got one here. Let me just share that up as well. So anyone considering attending an event, please read the following. So a guy put up, honest review of AI 500's weekend event is needed, as they will not allow me to post on their page, as they do not accept any form of feedback. So this is someone who had commented in another group because it got to the point where, rightly or wrongly, the owners were taking down any negative reviews.
They're still doing it.
So they're still doing it now.
They posted up a YouTube video this week of somebody who went to the event, and the video footage was great, but there was obviously the caveat that the gameplay wasn't. And anyone negatively commenting on that post that AI 500 put up has been reviewed, because if they're removing comments. If you look at the post, it says 20 plus comments, 30 plus comments. And when you click on the comments, there's 2, which are the 2 positive review, comments that have been put on, and just delete everything else.
Yeah. Not a big one about it, man.
Yeah, it's that acknowledgement. If something doesn't go well, you acknowledge it, you respond, and you adapt the next time round. And none of that's been
so. Keith, I think we're sort of slightly losing your Wi-Fi at the moment. Just so you know, we've had someone saying that your mic's crackling at the moment. So just to give you a heads up on that. So if people are struggling, we're aware. Thanks for that, Liam. But they were obviously saying, people were saying they didn't want to go back. People were demanding refunds. And then the post went up saying, I'll read this out in full because I think this is quite important here. So this was one of the organisers posted this up. For those watching the stream, I've crossed out names for basically personal security reasons and that, so they don't start getting messages and that. I've had players messaging me regarding marshalling today, and I've just spoken to marshals myself. It then goes on, I have to say a lot of the problems seem to stem from you guys not listening or reading the rules in the first place. The rules are on our website, on the Facebook page, and were emailed to everyone before the game and then repeated in the briefing this morning. If you don't listen or ignore these rules, then the marshals are spending all their time trying to stop players breaking the rules and missing out on what they should be doing, and that is making sure the game runs smoothly and watching out for hit taking. The unfortunate event with our game director today shook the marshals up a bit, and they would be the first to admit that they were not on their A game, but that does not excuse you guys breaking rules repeatedly that you know are in place. Just so you have a recap of the rules, here are the most important ones for you tomorrow. And then they went on to start stating the rules again. Now, okay, fair enough. People will break rules. It's the nature of airsoft. People are going to try and bend them to the point of breaking. Frequently, we see it. People push limits. There were videos going up of people shooting through gaps they shouldn't have been. And there seemed to just be a general sort of miscommunications now. It was unfortunate that the head marshal, injured himself and actually got carted away to hospital. Hopefully he's recovering. But yes, the marshals may have been not on their A game because of that. But to me, and I've always had a lot of time for the AI 500 events personally. To me, coming on there and then basically saying it's the player's fault when your event is going wrong and people are pointing out problems with your event is no. They paid. I mean, it was about £100 a ticket to go to this event for the weekend. Add on to that fuel costs. Add on to that hotels for a lot of people because there was very limited accommodation on site. Add on to that the food and drink that they're going to buy when they're there. For that weekend.
The thing that bothered me about the post was it sort of ignored the actual issue. Most of the people's issue was there's too many players here and the game's not being ran. Whereas in that it just says, yeah guys, you should have known the rules. And then it says about the marshal should be concentrating on hit taking and stuff. Nah, the marshal's job is actually help the flow of the game as well. So they may know what's happening in the game to circumvent that. So
marshals as well that's needed, because at most airsoft games, most ratio player to marshal is about 1 to 20. I think we see that in most places. So at 400 person event, Joe, how many people do you think should be? Don't do the math, just top of your head. 400 people. How many marshals?
I'd want at least 40.
Plus. I was going to say we see generally for sort of 60, 80 player games, we generally see sort of 1 in 10 at the jail on a good day.
Craig, how many marshals would you want to see on a 400 person event?
Probably about 40 or 50 at least, just make sure that there's
That 40 is like
There
that
was-
40 Marshall team, not like a third party team. So
There was 8.
fucking hell.
Eight,
Marshals.
eight's not enough.
It's a normal game day.
It's 1 to 50, isn't it? If I'm right, math-wise.
Wait, here's the thing: 86 people at the jail. How many marshals did guys have?
We had 8 marshals.
Yeah.
I think it was so. 1 to 20. Yeah. Plus, we had a few extra people voluntarily marshalling during the day, taking photos and things like that. But
Granted, a smaller number.
we had more marshals
If you get a smaller number.
during an 86-player event than they did for a 400-person event. It's mental.
Yeah,
Because that
mad.
means that if you do need to enforce rules, you do not have the resources to do so. And the videos I've seen constantly conflicting information. You are allowed to shoot over the top of the rails, not allowed to shoot through them. And then somebody else is saying you are allowed to shoot through them, but only on this floor. You can't have this varying level of rules. You're allowed to shoot through the railings on floor 2, but you're not allowed to shoot through it on the ground floor. Upwards, this, that, and the other. You're only allowed to shoot over this level. And then you've got people saying, I'm getting shot, I think, through the railings, but I'm not sure if it's a ricochet or if I'm getting shot through the railings or not. The marshal's just like, just from here upwards, just from here upwards. You're working down a stairwell, people working upwards. And you need to make things, and this is going to sound really bad.
I had
Airsoft,
a video
as a general population, if we were to cater for them, we need to keep things simple. We need to keep things understandable.
Oh, definitely.
Because a lot of us are talking during safety briefs and we shouldn't do this, that, and the other. We're simple creatures. We just want things. Don't shoot through gaps where people can't see you. Don't poke your gun through holes and shoot. Don't karate chop people. From that.
That's my favourite one.
Just we need to keep things basic. You can't give. This is the rule for this floor. This is the rule for this floor. This is what.
That's
and
where it gets confusing on so many levels.
I saw a video. A guy was approaching like a pedestal on the balcony, and it's a recently new video. I hadn't seen this one before. There was BBs all over the floor. As he was moving, he kicked some BBs. It bounced off the pedestal in front of him, and he did this in slow motion. It bounced back and hit him. There was nobody shooting at him, so he stood there and he went, "Was that a ricochet?" And then he looked round to the marshal. The marshal went, "You've just been shot." He went, "I don't think I have, because there's nobody shooting at me right now." And stood up in the open, and no one's shooting at me. The marshal went, "No, the light's really good. You definitely got shot in your right arm." And what he'd done is he kicked a BB off the floor, and it bounced off the pedestal and hit him. So it was a ricochet. And it's that level of potential misunderstanding that can just turn an event into fucking chaos.
Keith, could we just get you to just reconnect, bud? Because I'm really struggling to hear you at the moment. We'll chuck you straight back in. Cheers. You're just crackling up at the moment. It's getting difficult to catch you. I'm just going to jump on a couple of the comments that Gary's put in while Keith's trying to sort that out. So Gary, who obviously was there, he said the Sunday game we played in particular on the afternoon was excellent. Lesser numbers made it work better. So it was obviously
a few of the players had posted up about that specifically.
Yeah, people said that it was a problem for the numbers. He also says he thought it was around 15 marshals, but it is an issue that has been discussed. My thing for me was initially I sort of said, like when they first announced the game, especially after some of the issues that had come out from the previous Dover game, there was a lot of comments of sort of you need to take a bit of time to go away and reevaluate these events to figure out how you want to progress moving forward. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to just put on a game just to get a site. You want to make it. If people are paying £100 a ticket, you want that to be the best event you can.
Oh, easily. You want to make it an experience that people can turn around and say that was a fucking great weekend.
Yeah. Especially when I can go to a site, pay £40 for a day of CQB, and it'll be a great day every time, as Craig will know.
Yeah. I've been to stolen airsoft games once, and I can justify the cost. And at the time before I went, I was like 90 quid. I was like, this has to be fucking. I think it was 90, 100 quid. So that's better be fucking good. And it was just it was one of the theme days, so it is literally just like one team versus another with some objects in between. There's nothing complex about it, really.
I mean that said, I did spend 600 quid to go to a game, so I can't really say much. Transatlantic flights aren't cheap.
I know, but you got to meet a famous guy.
Yeah, I got to meet a celebrity, a real life celebrity, Kevin. But yeah, it's I mean, I don't get me wrong. I don't agree with the fact that people got abusive, like seriously abusive, with the owners of AI around it, because it brings us onto a topic we'll discuss in a minute as well.
100% don't condone anything like that. Like people are going to they're going to respond angrily, and maybe the best way of doing that is through like a text rather than like approach. But they've still got to.
You've got to read the room
write
at the end of the day when you're putting something up. But
they can write it out and read it back to themselves and go, look, I'll change this wording and then I'll post. Like that's kind of way they should be doing it.
Yeah.
So I don't condone any sort of violence like that, or any sort of aggressions towards marshals or people that organise events, because it's just a deterrent. Like,
this did win the internet for me on the day that it kicked off, though.
A cannon.
Yeah.
You seen the footage of the quad minigun? I know that's absolutely random.
Yeah, I'll have someone say it in a minute. But yeah, it was like if you read the room and you see that the event's not going well, don't just go on and blame the players. But by the same token, don't bite and don't react in the way that you do.
Yeah.
Which brings us finally onto our last topic. Comments have consequences, don't be a dick. This specifically relates to something I missed what actually happened with this. So, Keith, hopefully your microphone's fixed now.
You hear me? We're good?
Yeah, you sound good at the moment, mate. Yeah.
Perfect. Right. I'll give a quick TLDR. Too long didn't listen, didn't read. But yeah, basically there was an incident on a satirical Facebook page called Cringesoft. A page I'm not a fan of. I'll explain why later on. But essentially, it was a picture of a charity event, site owners, and then a gentleman from Ascension Research in the middle. Site owners had food and things like that were being donated to a food bank from this charity event. Ascension Research had a packet of their BBs, and essentially the caption was something along the lines of, being an albino lizard while trying to push your brand during a photo shoot from a charity game. What they were trying to make out is that, the site owners were showing the stuff that was being donated, while somebody from an airsoft brand who was there was trying to push their product via the charity event, which, if was the case, would be a little shady, but not unheard of. This is airsoft. The reality is, Luke, the gentleman from Ascension Research, I think it was Luke, had donated 15 or 20 bags of BBs to the Airsoft Club to raffle off or sell to raise money for charity. Now, all three people in the picture were showing off what they contributed to raise money for the charity event, and therefore we're doing a good thing. However, because of the lack of context of that and the lack of understanding, because Cringesoft used this picture without speaking to anybody involved, people were just being dicks. Genuine dicks. They were being horrible in the comments, calling them all sorts of names. Luke was in there trying to explain. He lost his temper, and it all just snowballed into what we've seen many a time in airsoft community pages, where one person says something, somebody reacts, and then it just gets cancerous. And it was bad. If anybody who wasn't involved in airsoft was looking at that, they'd just be like, "What are these guys involved in? It's terrible." They've since taken this post down and posted up a public apology, which is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But it's a response to something that shouldn't have happened in the first place. If you're involved in a satirical page and you're using other people's content to get views and build your community page, then you should probably get consent from that person first. Because if you post up a picture of somebody saying, "This is cringe," and then people start jumping on it, saying this, that, and the other, and that person's a little fragile mentally, which a lot of people are, then you could do serious damage to that person, both, mentally, emotionally, and potentially physically. And this is something we've said before, isn't it, Andy, where, this is stuff that's said on the internet, which has real-world consequences. If you're doing things like Cringesoft and you're using other people to other people's content, get permission, check they're okay with it, check they're okay being the butt of a joke before you go and do it. Satire should be something that's done in conjunction with somebody and not at the expense of somebody.
Yeah, that's what I'd mentioned about Super Mega to you, Keith.
Yeah.
I said, like, Super Mega's kind of not along the same lines, but their
Do it
stuff,
right.
yeah, it's sort of their stuff's like broad spectrum, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like
It's not directed at an individual.
any person, yeah. It's just something that happens in Airsoft, and they talk about hit taking, talk about TM being fucking shit, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, like not
The
people.
response to that post with Cringesoft has caused them to take down the post and do a public apology. And I'm hoping, that they come out of this a little more educated. Maybe we should work alongside people rather than point everybody at. Because all what they're doing is opening the door to bullying. I've put something up on Instagram yesterday about this, and quite a few people have grabbed the story post and shared it themselves. And I don't want credit for it. I just want things to change for the better, which is what I've always tried to do. Sometimes I've done it in the wrong way, but it's just through passion, I suppose.
Yeah.
But they need to, if they're going to start using people's content, they need to speak to these people and just say, I think this is really funny and I think I'll get some class comments. I just need to make sure you're all right with me doing it before we do it, because you might get some people calling you a dickhead. And if that person goes, you know what, no worries, because if it raises a few laughs, I've got no problem with it, great. Or if that person goes like, I don't want people calling me a dickhead publicly, and there's 1,000+ people on that page that are going to be taking the piss out of me, and I don't like that. Don't do it. However, they don't give people that option, and it's wrong.
Yes.
And I know people go, it's just satire. You don't be a snowflake. All this stuff. Fuck you. Fuck you if you think that way.
That's like that thing.
They have a choice if they're used as the butt of a joke. Otherwise, it's bullying. There's no
think about the shit we've gave each other, like privately, private and stuff. Like even then, if one of us said, "Oh, you've hit the bone there," like one of us would be like, shit, sorry." Like, I mean, you've got to,
It doesn't matter. That's the page, because people are still commenting.
It's bad.
I think the classic example of this going the other way though was I don't know if you remember a few years ago with one of the Eagle Eye boys when he decided to call players over a certain age dusty old men and things like that and said go do like knitting or whatever it was. I can't remember the exact post. He got called the fuck out with that because he literally just disappeared for about 3 days off of social media as a result. People calling him out on it and tried the most bullshit excuses to justify it. And
what was his age limit that he went for?
It was about 40s or something. It was like it wasn't even that old.
Yeah, if I remember right, because I was over.
I like this guy, but all right.
Yeah, but it was just like if you're going to do this and people grab onto it, they will call it out now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So like we said,
I've been involved in Airsoft like for a long time. Like, so like it's stupid to say like people are too old. Like, there's site owners who are it's not talking about people's ages, but there's site owners that are well into their 50s. How do you think they really got to be a site owner? Like, they didn't just go, "Oh, I'm going to open a site." Like, they knew about Airsoft before, had a bit of passion about it. Whether it was recently or not, their age isn't irrelevant to it. But you wouldn't have that if it wasn't for them. Do you know what I mean? You can't really fucking age shame people.
Yeah, it's just a bad road to travel down.
Shouldn't shame people's head, to be fair.
Yeah, but it's like we said though. Like we always say, don't be a dick. We've met some guys who are a lot older than the age group he was talking about, and they're some of the best players you come across.
Oh, easily.
Like Keith.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's at that point that I think we'll have to.
Old I am, I suppose.
I think it's at that point we'll have to call it a day.
Comment later, it's all right.
I just want to say just quickly, Andrew James has said, "Evening, all good to see you back." Thanks, Andrew. Sorry, I've had to look on Facebook itself. I've had to load it up on my laptop to the side of me because, I mean, it's the first night we're doing this. At the end of the day, we're having a couple of issues I've put here. We've not had the Facebook comments coming through for some reason. But, at the end of the day, we adapt, we overcome. Liam Shelton has said, shots fired. shots aren't fired. At the end of the day, it's not about shooting shots at people. It was just an example that I could think of off the top of my head that involved someone getting called out for exactly what Keith was discussing.
Accountability, not shots fired.
Exactly. That's what it's about at the end of the day. And also, they can't use my stuff because at the end of the day, this is my copyright, and I'll have them for copyright infringement if I see it around.
Only if you're copyrighted, to be fair.
Yeah, it's mine. They can bugger off.
What you're saying is I can't use this for a documentary then?
No, Craig, you're allowed. You're on it.
Yeah!
He's probably taken a bloody photo already when I've not been looking.
No.
It'll be wonderful.
Yeah, it will be. It'll be like when I was scratching my back or something earlier. But yeah, no, it's been
right here on your face. That's what it's going to be.
In response to Andrew's comment, it's great to be back. It's taken a while, I know, but I needed some time to figure things out.
Farewell,
was the joke just said about Keith's age? So,
it was me. I thought that's what it was, to be fair.
Yeah, that's what he was saying. Shots fired at because Keith's old.
Keith knows we all love him.
But yeah, no, we are moving forward. We're looking at running an episode every other week now to fit in around work schedules and home life schedules and that. We will also be looking at potentially expanding the team in the future, especially, we've all got busy lives. Yes. But that's a discussion that us four need to have. But I believe in 2 weeks' time we've got OP's Airsoft on.
OP's?
Yeah, looking forward to that. He's a really nice guy, Ben.
That's okay.
He concentrates on the technical side of things.
Give us a quick rundown of what we're going to be doing next time then, Keith. Hang on, let's make your face really big so everyone can see you.
Just like,
yeah, so Ben from OP's is hopefully going to be on, as long as our schedules align and there's no things crop up as usual. But Ben's been... there's been a lot of things pop up recently on community, specifically within like First and Only and stuff like that, where there's been miscommunications about FPS to dual creep, things like that. And what Ben's decided to do is concentrate his blogs on the technical side of things based on the science, so that people can read something that he puts up and fully understand what a specific thing in Airsoft means, so that you can make educated decisions off the back of science, not what people think. Because if you go on to an Airsoft community page, type in what is dual creep, you'll have 50 different explanations. He will give you the scientific formulas that allow you to calculate dual creep and things like that. So, we're going to have an interesting discussion into the more technical aspects of Airsoft that are often overlooked by sites. And he does some kick-ass HPA builds. So, you can say...
I need to get one now because I've got it on my T-shirt. Look, it's even got the bloody... I got this off the guys in the States, and it's even got the bloody airline and everything. I need to get HPA now.
That's not an airline. It's an umbilical cord for an airsoft gun that hasn't been released yet.
I need to get a HPA Evo so I can be like Craig.
On his Instagram.
I don't have an HPA Evo.
No, but then you have an Evo, and then I'll be the butt of the jokes.
On OP's Insta, was it I think it was HPA tapped a GPMG or a heavy machine gun. Oh.
Yeah.
I watched that video and I thought, that looks cool. And then he obviously made his comment on it saying about HPA, and I was like, for crying out loud, and I was like, I want to try it. I was instantly like, just imagine that, just rattling down.
Forbidden fruit for that.
Nah.
I suppose speaking to somebody who's lived in that world, when we, not necessarily have done, might be a bit more eye-opening and make us more acceptable to the different formats of Airsoft power supplies.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I do get people comment, but I honestly do not care.
We'll look forward to that next time.
PM can go fuck itself.
I finally sold mine, but that's a story for another day.
Don't get me started in KW either.
And on that bombshell, I think it's time that we call it a day. Let's run through the socials. The guys should have been good and left their socials on the corner, but Joe, where can people find you?
Sandman at TSB on Instagram. That's pretty much the only place I'm available.
Cool. Craig, I nearly called him Jesus then. I had to think what his actual name was.
Call me Jesus. No problem if people call me Jesus.
Where can people find you?
Yeah. At my house, really, if you look hard enough.
For fuck's sake. What's your address?
Sometimes work. If you really want to know about where I work, put it down.
What does this remove button do?
That's
it's a Soul Hunter Airsoft on Instagram more than anything.
Cool. And Keith?
That bit, that one there, cosine kilo.
Cool.
Don't bother following me. Nothing interesting is going up at the moment. I've had a kid. I don't get a chance to play.
Yeah, same.
Cool.
Thing.
And
You can follow.
And you can find me on Instagram at the Chairsofter Show, facebook.com/the Chairsofter Show. Got Twitch, got YouTube now. These are all coming out. The audio will also be going up on Mondays following the show. And yeah, that's it for tonight. Thanks everyone for tuning in for our first episode. It's been great to have you guys on to help us out and join in with the chat. So we'll see you next time. Take care of yourself, look after each other, don't be a dick, and we'll see you guys in around 2 weeks' time. Take care, guys. See you later.
Ciao.